Good evening and welcome to the Omni-Pro Speakers Bureau Showcase. I'm Michelle Tropper. I am the Program Quality Director for District 83 Toastmasters, and I will be your moderator for this evening. Our Zoom master tonight is Peggy Seymour. I want to welcome you to this showcase, Reinvent Your Future, Educate, Inspire, Transform. Tonight's presenters, all experts in their field, want to encourage the rebirth of both organizations and individuals as the incremental opening of our nation's businesses and educational institutions take place in 2021 and into 2022. I want to just let you know you're all in a webinar format for tonight, which means that those of you who are our attendees, you have the ability to communicate with us via the chat window. So you can send messages to panelists or our moderators. I'll be your moderator tonight, and Peggy Seymour is our Zoom master or Zoom host. I would recommend that you send any technical questions or issues directly to either myself or Peggy. And if you have questions for any of our speakers, there is the Q&A. Oh, we have disabled the chat feature, I see. Okay, so we've disabled chat because we don't want to distract our panelists. There is the opportunity for you to ask questions in our Q&A section, and we'll also be able to answer some of those questions in there. So that's how we'll be communicating with our attendees tonight. And we have a lineup of all of our Speakers Bureau members who are eager to share their expertise and presentations with you. With no further delay, we'll get started. And what we will do, in terms of the chat window, if our speakers are looking to have enabled chats, we'll make sure that we enable that for those speakers that want to do that. And I'll communicate with our Zoom master behind the scenes here to make sure that our speakers are able to communicate with audience members that way. But definitely our Q&A feature for the webinar is available to everyone for any questions that you have for the panelists. So with that, let's get started. Our first speaker tonight is Mario Lewis. And Mario is an award-winning, energetic speaker and presentation coach who provides audiences and individuals with motivational messages and strategies to become powerful and dynamic communicators. Using his Connect, C-O-N-N-E-C-T framework, he frequently delivers high-powered talks that teach people how to connect with their audiences to make their messages unforgettable. Based on his journey to overcome his fear of public speaking, Mario's mission is to inspire and share with others how to turn their communication challenges into personal success. I ask you to please put your jazz hands together and help me give a really warm welcome to Mario Lewis, Speak to Connect. All yours, Mario.
I believe you will all agree. The phrase connect with your audience has become a little cliche, hasn't it? Have you ever typed it into Google? I did. Received 626 million results in 0.53 seconds. The majority of these results will provide you with articles and memes that give a high-level summary of how to connect. Fewer of those results will tell you why connection is so important. And almost none of them marry those two together, the why and the how. And today, we will do just that. We will discuss why connecting is so important, especially in today's environment. And using my Connect framework, I will share an example of how to connect with audiences that matter to you. But, and there's always a but, a 2020 study indicated that 75% of the US population feels some level of anxiety when public speaking, ranging all the way from a little shyness all the way to extreme fear and anxiety. I don't know which one of these pictures describes you, but trust me, you are not alone. I used to be that guy on the far right. Margarita, our Omni-Pro Speakers Bureau chair, a former panic attack sufferer, told me that she was the lady on the far left, holding the paper bag. But despite all that negative impact to our careers, our wages, our lives, only 8% of us seek help, professional help. And the impact is real and it's staggering. Because over your career, the fear of public speaking will cost you hundreds of thousands and potentially millions of dollars. It has the potential to set you back even before you begin your career due to an estimated 10% reduction in college graduation rates. And if you were able to get a decent job after college, the fear of public speaking will reduce wages by 10% on average. And that makes sense when you consider just how important presentations are, all the way from team meetings to boardroom meetings. Then the fear of public speaking reduces your chance of promotion into management by up to 15%. Think about it this way. Even if you were to beat all of the odds and make it into management, consider how difficult it would be to move forward in your career, given how much speaking is involved at that level. See, that means that public speaking is no longer optional for your professional success or survival. So in order to advance your career, advance your business, advance your life, advance your goals, advance your dreams, you have to build those public speaking skills. And there is only one ingredient that determines your success, and that is connection. Your ability to connect your message with your audience. But please understand, our world has shifted. Connection is the new currency. You see, COVID-19 has forced us back into our homes and into a virtual world. See, with most of us connecting from our home, connecting to that world with a laptop or a desktop camera, our ability to connect and to communicate effectively has never been more important. You see, today, we have one of the greatest opportunities in front of us. A virtual world, a virtual audience waiting to be inspired, engaged, and motivated. So I challenge you to cash in on this new currency by investing in yourself, by seeking the help that you need, by learning how to connect. It was Steve Jobs that said, "The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller." Your ability to share your story and then connect that story with your audience has become more important now than ever. In this new world, you will stand out. And those of you who don't get the help you need for your fear of public speaking will unfortunately be left behind. And don't you want to grow personally and professionally? Don't you want to influence your colleagues? Don't you want to become a leader? It starts with connection. And I believe Dr. Brene Brown said it best. Vulnerability is the only bridge to build a connection. Her TED Talk, The Power of Vulnerability, is one of the top 5 most viewed TED Talks in the world with over 50 million views. She says that staying vulnerable is the risk that we must take in order to experience connection. And to create this type of bond, you must be willing and to be vulnerable in front of others. So drop your guard. Share a part of you, including your failures, your fears, your frustrations. Yes, that part of your life that isn't always pretty, perfect, or polished. And then, when you're willing to take this risk and share some of yourself, you can then create a bond with your audience that opens them up to a message that leaves a lasting impression. But there is a problem. Our society has become increasingly disconnected. A 2019 survey by BetterHelp.com, the largest e-counseling forum, found that 25% of adults surveyed did not have someone that they could privately turn to discuss their private struggles or their thoughts. 70% of participants admitted that when sharing their feelings with a coworker, friend, or partner, they tend to hold back their true feelings. And a staggering 90% of participants say they downplay their emotions so they don't burden or worry a loved one. As you can see in the picture, 90% of we as a society are losing our ability to connect. Then I think back to my story. See, public speaking became that tool for this shy, self-conscious, undersized kid who went to high school in the rough, tough Bronx, New York, to gain his self-confidence. But over time, that little kid turned into a better speaker. And as you can see, he focused more on his delivery, which was okay, even when he delivered in presentations at work or at school. Yet, something was missing. The information he shared, the content he delivered, wasn't always connecting with the audience, as you can see. Until in 2010, I became a part of that 8% who sought help. I sought the services of mentors and coaches who taught me how to put myself into my story and to bring others into my world. And I stopped trying to be such a polished speaker, and I focused more on sharing more of me. And I'll admit, it was tough. It felt uncomfortable to let myself become vulnerable. But eventually, I began telling more engaging stories, sharing more valuable messages, and my connection with audiences became deeper and stronger. That is why I developed the Connect framework, to remind me and reinforce in myself that every time that I got on stage, that every time I got in front of an audience, I needed to make a connection. This is the summary of my 7-step Connect framework. It typically takes a full day workshop to go through all of these 7 modules, but you don't have to write it down. By the end of my presentation, I will share a 1-page summary of the Connect framework in the chat. Consider it as a gift to you for spending your valuable time with me here today. But I also want to demonstrate how this Connect framework is applicable at your work and in a corporate environment. See, at my job, I joined a new team as a financial analyst. You see, during my first week on the team, my team leader, Dan, asked me to analyze the financial performance of a company and give a presentation to the entire team later that week. For that presentation, standing in front of my new teammates I said this. Before I get into the financial details of the company, I want to share that for me, looking at financials is kind of like looking at the stars. I could see the puzzled look over all the faces in the room. Yes, looking at financials reminds me of when I was a little kid growing up in rural Jamaica on a farm where there was very little light at night except the stars. I enjoyed stargazing by myself. But what I enjoyed even more was when my friends and my cousins joined me and we would stare into the star-filled night together. I quickly realized by myself that I could pick out a few stars. But when we teamed up together, we could see galaxies. We could see constellations. And that is how I think about looking at financials. By myself, I can only see a few things. But when we as a team look together, we will find so much more. So I kindly ask you to join me in taking a look at the financials. And with that intro, I started my presentation. So how did I apply this Connect framework to prepare for that presentation at work? You see, the first C in Connect is to craft your message. So as you can see, there are 7 steps in crafting your message. Today, we are only going to concentrate on 2 of these steps. The first step, align your message to the audience's needs. This step involves an audience analysis to determine the needs of your audience. See, in the story I told you, my audience was my team leader as well as my new teammates. They wanted to hear all about the company financials, but they were also using this presentation to get to know me, to get to know my approach to my work. Eventually, we got to the financials, but I also wanted to use this presentation to introduce myself. See, my overarching goal was to let them know I was approachable and that I wanted to partner with them and that I needed their support. So with this audience analysis, I aligned my message to my audience's needs. The third step, select stories that support your main points. This step is all about storytelling. Later today, one of my Omni-Pro colleagues, my friend Isaak Gilbinovich, is doing an in-depth presentation on storytelling. You are in for a treat. But nothing is better than a story to make a point. To achieve my goal of introducing myself to my team, I told a short, simple story that let them know I'm approachable, that I'm a team player, and that I'm easy to work with. And they connected with my story. How did I know? In the days that followed, my team members came over to my desk to introduce themselves. They came to say hello, to talk. Guess what we talked about? Not the financials. We talked about their childhood, where they grew up. We even talked about the stars. In those conversations, I realized I achieved my goal of my speech, of connecting. I leave you with one final thought. As you continue your public speaking journey, understand that audiences are not in search of perfect. They want real and authentic connections. And real people drive real connections. And this understanding transformed my experience and my approach as a speaker and as a leader. And it is still transforming me today. And it will transform you by helping you to connect. Thank you again for your time. In the chat, you will find a PDF summary of the Connect framework. Again, consider this my gift to you. And if I can be of assistance to you on your public speaking journey and on your way to deeper connections, please reach out to me at the address you see on the screen. Enjoy the rest of our showcase.
Thank you, Mario. Oh, I loved hearing about the Connect framework, definite tips we can all use. And if you haven't downloaded it, you can download it from the chat window right now. We're going to move on to our next speaker, Dave Chapman. Dave is a professional speaker and a certified trainer and personal coach with 10 years of experience. He is a member of the John Maxwell team and a candidate for a New Jersey certification as a peer recovery coach. From his years as a serious procrastinator, Dave shares the tools and techniques he has learned and developed to help other people reduce the impact of procrastination on their lives. Let's give a warm welcome to Dave Chapman, Eliminate Procrastination. Take it away, Dave.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks, everybody, for joining us tonight. I hope we get a chance to meet some of you who we haven't met before, but we're glad to have you with us. Procrastination stinks. It can make a mess of our business lives. It can have an impact on our personal lives. And I know whereof I speak. It's had a profound impact on my life. But it's a whole lot better than it used to be. And the message that I want you to take home tonight is that you do have techniques and tools that are available that are understandable, easy to use, and that can help you overcome and significantly reduce the impact of procrastination in your life. Now, let me get over to my screen share here. And start with this slide. You can't build a reputation on what you're going to do. Henry Ford was a very good businessman, and with this quote, I think he showed a great deal of wisdom. You can build a reputation on what you achieve, what you get done, what you hand in on time, but you're never going to build a solid reputation and earn the respect of your business colleagues if you're bringing your work in late and you're constantly trying to catch up with the others on your team. And don't forget the wisdom of Yogi Berra has said, if you don't set goals, you can't regret not reaching them. A buddy of mine is a very successful attorney and does a great deal of speaking on theological issues, interestingly enough. But he always starts off with a good joke that I like. There are three types of attorneys: those who are good at math and those who aren't. What's this got to do with procrastination? Well, there are about 5 million definitions of what procrastination is. I'm going to try to give you some concise information about it. First of all, procrastination is an attempt to avoid pain. And because you are trying to avoid the pain of doing tasks that make you feel overwhelmed or are unpleasant or have unpleasant memories associated with them, it makes sense in a way to procrastinate. Granted, you're avoiding the pain, but only for a little while, and usually the pain gets worse with time. Procrastination is a learned response. We don't have a procrastination gene. Sorry, but you're not born that way. It's a habit you develop. Here's a modern definition of procrastination. The habits we develop to cope with anxiety about starting or completing a task, our attempt to deal with tasks that are boring or overwhelming, and it is a normal reaction to stress. Works, it's a good definition, keep it in mind. 3 fundamental types of procrastinators. A psychologist would laugh at this. These are my definitions. Most of us, too many of us, and fewer, but unfortunately a growing number of us. Most of us means that we all procrastinate at frequent times in our lives. But most of us manage to get the work done on time, get the homework assignment handed in on time. We manage to cope with our procrastination problem and not let it have too big of an impact on our lives. Then there's a lot of us who are constantly late for work, late for the family gathering, late for church, late getting an assignment done when we're in college or in high school, and very late getting projects completed at work. Too many of us have that problem, and it has an enormous impact on our personal and our professional lives. And unfortunately, every day, more people who suffer from depression and post-traumatic stress disorder have very serious procrastination problems, and that number of us is growing every day. Our world is getting more crowded and more painful to live in, and it's creating a great deal of painful stress. Good news, all three of that kind of procrastinator can get better. Could you walk across a simple bridge like this? It's only about 5 or 6 feet above the gully. You'd have to climb the barrier to make yourself fall off. It's well constructed, it's safe. Most of us could walk across that without a whole lot of worry. That's a simple task. At the beginning of the bridge, on this side of the bridge, you have to get your plans in order to get across. What are the resources you need to complete a task? You know you have the intellectual ability to do it. Get to the other side, the task is complete. Most of us do it in a timely fashion and with some confidence. It is not all that hard to walk across a bridge like this. But what happens when we procrastinate? That bridge becomes this bridge. Instead of a 4 or 5 foot gully that it's over, it's a raging river that wants to drag your body under. And obviously the safety of this bridge is horrifyingly dangerous. This is what procrastination does. It's the same bridge, it's the same gully, but in our mind, it creates this kind of terror of tackling jobs that are hard for us to face. For all our irrational behaviors, there is a rational explanation. Where there is understanding, there is a foundation for hope and a pathway to change. I said that. For all our irrational behaviors, there's a rational explanation. When you understand the cause of your irrational behavior, you've got a chance of beating it and changing that behavior. A good goal, mature productivity. This is my idea of what we should be striving for in terms of our daily efforts at work and at home. Consistent effort, confident effort, coordinated effort, calm effort. A consistent effort. We should be able to go to work and put in a good, steady day. We shouldn't have to have major swings in our ability to get work done. We should know what resources we have. We should know where we can go for help. We should be able to tackle our tasks at home and at work confidently. We should be able to work with other people in a coordinated manner. We should be able to keep the boss posted on our progress. We should be able to go to our team members and ask for help. A coordinated effort is part of mature productivity, and we should be able to do it calmly and confidently, consistent work effort, coordinated effort with other people, mature productivity. Always remember, never put off until tomorrow anything you can do the day after tomorrow. Thank you, Mark Twain. Recommendation number 1, find a pro pal. The best cure for hypochondria is to forget about your own body and get interested in somebody else's. Thank you, Goodman-Ace. But he's got a good point. If we can take the focus of our own health, our own problem, and give help to somebody else who's a procrastinator, our procrastination problem will probably diminish. So what is a pro pal? A pro pal is a procrastination pal. Now, unlike my friend Mario Lewis, that doesn't mean somebody that you can procrastinate with. It's somebody to help you avoid procrastinating, right, Mario? A pro pal is your accountability partner. Someone you call when you have a problem and to take the focus off yourself. An example of working with your pro pal, I'm having a hard time getting going. I just need to get myself calmed down. Have you got a minute to talk so I can get started on this task? Call your pro pal and say, can you talk to me for a while? I just had an argument with my boss. Help me out. I just want you to know I've had a good productive hour and I'm happy about it. Look for that pat on the back. Now, those of you who are highly productive, you don't know what it's like. When you're a procrastinator and you put in one good hour, that's a cause for celebration. And when you're trying to beat a habit, give yourself a pat on the back, call your accountability partner, your pro pal, and ask for that pat on the back. You've earned it. I'm taking myself too seriously. When you focus on somebody else and try to help them with their procrastination problem, you're helping yourself. And when you focus on someone else, you're less worried about your own problem and you're going to make good progress in dealing with it. Long-term habits can't be erased, but they can be replaced with new, more powerful long-term habits. You go to my website, I'll give you the address. There are a couple of pages on how to change an old habit and how to create a new habit. Take a look at those sheets. They're created by a guy named Charles Duhigg, and they're brilliant. This is a tool I've created for myself. It's a combination of tracking my activity during the day and multiple to-do lists. In terms of tracking my activity during the day, this is not a list of, this is not my calendar. This is not for appointments, and this is not for scheduling things. This is for keeping a record in 15-minute segments of how I spend my time. And if you take a look at the upper right-hand corner on this screen, you'll see the words Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, one of my favorite movies. If I knock off in the mid-afternoon and watch a movie with my wife, I'm not being productive. I have to be honest with myself and say I've lost productive time, and I write it down there. Now, take a look at this idea. You've wasted some time, be honest with yourself about it, get a yellow highlighter, and draw a line in those time segments where you lost productive time. Take a look at that sheet yesterday when you start today, and you're going to find yourself not wanting to see a lot of yellow. It's a good motivational tool to reduce the amount of time you waste. Morning options. I have too many things to do in the morning. And if I try to do them all, I don't get important stuff done during the day. Morning's my productive time. By checking off what I've done here day to day, I make sure that I don't focus on the same thing every day and lose the chance to get things done in the morning that I want to get done. This is available to download from my website. You can adjust it. It's a Word document, so you can change it any way you want. This is my own personal list. Today's intentions. These are my long-term goals. I write them by hand. I type them here so you could read them, but I write them by hand every day, and they keep in perspective what I'm aiming for long-term in my life. And then my to-do list. Very simply, use a to-do list on your computer because you can adjust it every day and not have to start with a fresh, brand new to-do list and list everything over and over again. Here's another great thing about a to-do list. Suppose you spend some good, hard-working time on one of the tasks or two of the tasks here, but don't get them done. Go ahead and draw a line through them. That's a signal to yourself. It's a pat on your back that you've spent some good quality time on those tasks. If you complete them, erase them, fill in the space with something else. But you can leave them on there without the line and start again tomorrow. But at the end of the day, if you have 6 to 10 lines drawn through tasks, you probably had a pretty good day. 2 best ideas. Find a pro pal, use a daily activity tracker, and a planner. Help and support Procrastinators Anonymous. It's a 12-step program for people who procrastinate. The only problem is they don't keep their website up to date, and they never seem to start their meetings on time. Go to my website, www.wellsaiddave.com. I've got several documents like that sheet I just showed you that you can download and use yourself. Please help yourself. And if you have questions, there's a contact sheet there. Give me a call, send me a note. And if you want to know more about how to use these forms, just let me know. I'd be glad to help you out. Are you a procrastinator? A self-assessment test is also available for you to download. It's written by a brilliant psychologist from Canada, and I love it. So there are some ideas for you. You can lick this. It's hard work, but it beats not getting work done. And if you follow some step-by-step procedures, you can change these habits long-term and have a much more satisfying life. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you, Dave. And I'm glad you didn't put off doing your presentation tonight. And I want to thank you for being a pro pal. Not that I was procrastinating earlier, but I love that idea. So thanks for those great tips. And we're going to move on to our next speaker. Before we do that, I'd just like to ask Dave to turn his camera off. And I also wanted to let everyone know that we have opened up the chat. We are resharing a couple of things in the chat. We shared Dave's website in the chat window. We also reshared Mario's handout with you, and you should have access to all of that. Plus, our next speaker has requested to use the chat with her presentation. So you will be able to communicate in the chat window during this presentation, and also in between speakers, we'll have chat windows open. So I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Patty Loud, who is a professional speaker, trainer, and coach specializing in security, leadership, and communications topics. Patricia has over 20 years of experience as a manager in a Fortune 50 company and is the founder and CEO of Loud Speaks. Today, she shares with us her tips for interviewing online so you can succeed at your next interview. Let's listen as Patricia tells us how we can interview to shine. Welcome, Patricia Loud.
Thank you, Michelle. I am going to share a few slides with you today. And there we are. Okay. All right, thank you, Michelle. Interview to shine. Interview to shine. For many people, their only shine is the sweat on their hand as they go in for that first handshake. Who wants to shake hands with the virus still raging anyway? Hello, I'm Patricia Loud, and today I'm here to give you the good news. You can shine at your next interview, minus the sweaty handshakes. We've all been there, the interview table. It conjures fear into the hearts of many and puts the sweat into your handshake. Over the next few minutes, you'll gain some tips you can use to make your next interview a success. Don't just interview, interview to shine. Whether you're looking for a new job, volunteering for a leadership position, or trying to make that next great hire, chances are there's an interview in your future. Interviewer or interviewee, we all want to succeed at the interview table. To help you succeed, you can use a little trick from 3 wise monkeys. See no evil, hear no evil, and say no evil. In our time here together, we'll look at how you are seen, how you are heard, and of course, what do you say? Let me take you back in time for a moment to the old world. Close your eyes if you wish and take a virtual walk with me down memory lane. This was a time of commuting in traffic and sitting down in conference rooms and offices. Interviews were set up as in-person meetings and done face-to-face, starting out with the infamous sweaty handshake. Got that image? Okay, open your eyes. We don't live there anymore. Today, it is more likely that your next interview will be online. Zoom, Skype, Teams, Google Meet, FaceTime, WebEx, just to name a few. There is no one here today who has not been on one or more of those online meeting platforms in the past year. If you really haven't experienced this since the start of the pandemic, guess what? This is the meeting that broke your streak. You're looking at me via Zoom right now. Does this change how we interview? It certainly does. Let's start with see no evil. We've never been on camera as much as we have over the past year. Don't get me wrong, we had cameras in the office too. They were there for security, to catch your image as you walked in and out of buildings or traveled hallways and staircases. It is much less likely that your last interview was on camera, unless you were interviewing for a role on a TV sitcom. Some people have taken to this platform really well. I've seen people use their Zoom camera like a mirror, fixing their hair, putting on makeup, and primping as though they were standing in front of their bathroom vanity at home. I do not recommend that you do this during an interview. The purpose of a camera during an online meeting is to capture the image of all parties, giving them a sense of talking to each other in person. You can watch as someone nods his head in agreement or shakes in disagreement as you talk. Body language enhances communication by providing a connection between participants of a conversation. An interviewer often relies on this information to get a better sense of a person. As a hiring manager, this information helped me to assess the technical knowledge of job candidates. In the old world, in the time before video calls, I once conducted a phone interview for someone who could not travel to our location for an in-person interview. During his 30-second delays in responding to my questions, I got the sense that he was looking up the correct answers. This is an extreme case, but provides a good example of why seeing is believing. How should you leverage your camera during an online interview or meeting? You'll want your face framed in the screen. Make sure your entire face is visible. I call this your Zoom face, although it applies to all online meeting programs. Personally, I'm on Zoom every day and I've seen it all. Perhaps you have as well. I've seen people show us the top of their head, the lower portion of their face or chin, a side view, or a mugshot, or no part of their face at all. When preparing for an online call, take a moment to look at your image on the screen. What do you see? What does your picture say about you? If you plan to interview via Zoom, you can practice with a free Zoom account before the meeting. Once you confirm that your face is visible, verify that no other body parts are inadvertently showing. I once saw someone adjust her undergarments on a call with 75 other people. Be aware of your movements. Once you have framed your face properly, know that any movement will change that frame. Don't get up from that chair until the camera goes off. Put differently, please turn your camera off before you get up from your seat. Some of you may be thinking that it is okay to dress only from the waist up. No, that is not okay. You must be fully dressed and dressed for the position you want. Interviewers, dress to be the role model. And yes, socks and shoes are required. Even if you didn't see a no shoes, no service sign, you wouldn't think about walking into an in-person interview without your shoes. Why would you think this would be okay in an online interview? Do you think that the other person won't know because your camera will be carefully positioned on your face? Think about a time in your past when you wore a new suit or dress, or maybe a favorite shirt. Anyone have a power tie? How did wearing that make you feel? It is true that a power suit or dress will make you feel different on the inside. And that attitude could make the difference for you since it will come across to others in conversation. Shoes are like the icing on the cake and tell your inner voice that you are prepared and serious about this important conversation. The bottom line is, wear the shoes. Let's talk about how you are heard. Have you noticed that some online meetings are like a seance? Are you there, John? Is anyone else there with you? We can't see you. Can you hear us? Wait, I think he's trying to say something. Are you trying to tell us something, John? Others sound like an old cell phone ad. Can you hear me now? How about now? Is that better? Make sure you have a good microphone. If your computer microphone isn't very good, try headphones with a built-in mic or purchase a separate microphone. Beware of the mute button. When you enter a call, your microphone may be set to mute by the meeting organizer. Be sure to turn it on before speaking. Conversely, be sure to turn it off if you are not speaking. Watch out for the double mute. Some people use the mute buttons on their computer keyboard in conjunction with the meeting software. While the software may make it obvious to you and others whether you are muted, if you start talking and others in the online meeting are saying they still cannot hear you, even though the software indicates you are not muted, check your computer mute button. Anticipate background noise. Inviting someone to vacuum the house during your interview is not a good idea. We can hear it, even if it is in the next room. We can also hear children, pets, and other family members. It is best to use a room where you can close the door. Noise-canceling headphones could also be helpful. With the nice weather coming, you may be tempted to take your interview meeting outside. Keep in mind that your neighbors also like being outside. Neighbors love to share. Some of them love to share their music with the entire block. Hired yard services also roam the neighborhood during the day. You could hear a wide assortment of power tools like lawnmowers and leaf blowers. You might even get lucky and hear a loud garbage truck or bus passing through. It's best to stay inside for your interview, where you can control the background noise. Once you've done the work of ensuring that you can be seen and heard online, we get to the real meat of the interview. Questions, questions, questions. Remember, you're there for a reason: to succeed at the interview by answering and asking questions. Guidance for this is similar whether you are in person or online. When you're confident that online meeting participants will see no evil or hear no evil from you, you now need to be sure you say no evil. You may want to study books or online sources of interview questions and have some answers ready. Do you have any favorite interview questions? Feel free to type them into the chat. One of the more popular questions is, tell me about yourself. This is not a trick question, but some people do get tricked by it. The interviewer really does not want to hear about your love for fishing or whether you prefer deep sea or lake fishing, unless that is somehow pertinent to the position you are interviewing for. If you are interviewing to become a fishing instructor, you'll definitely want to communicate your love for fishing. Otherwise, save the fishtails for another time. Tell me about yourself is really meant to give the interviewer some insight into you as a candidate and what your goals and priorities are. Talk about your current role and responsibilities. You can mention a big win, a recent accomplishment, or something you did that you are extremely proud of. Cover any previous experience or anything you feel is relevant to the position you are interviewing for. Know what your traits are and be ready to explain them. I once hired someone who described herself as a perfectionist. I know what you're thinking. Do people actually hire perfectionists? In this case, yes, she got the job. The job was to produce accurate, error-free documentation. Her perfectionist tendencies ensured that her work product could be distributed without multiple correction cycles, saving me and the team hours of work every week in document quality reviews. Remember, your description of yourself must be pertinent to the role. Don't lie about it or make things up. That is one good way to get separated from a job. Here's another popular question. Why did you leave your last job? There are a lot of good answers to this question. There are also a lot of bad ones. Many people leave jobs to advance their career. That is a good reason to leave a job and something you can discuss during an interview. It is also commonly said that people leave managers. However, be aware that "my boss was a jerk" is not a good answer to this common interview question. This will give someone the impression that you'll be leaving him and calling him a jerk in the future. This is never a good business strategy. We'll look at one more interview question today. Why should we hire you? This is a sign that the interview may be coming to a close, and you'll want to have an answer ready for this one. Your reply to this question should be a short summary of your skills that tells the interviewer what you bring to the table and why you are the best candidate for the position. Show how you are a good fit for the role and include anything that may differentiate you from others. Think about what you want someone to remember about you specifically when reviewing the day's candidates. Why should they hire you? There are so many interview questions out there, and they can be tricky if you are not fully prepared. It helps to practice by working with someone in a live Q&A session. This extra preparation will help you to shine through and ace that interview. Sweaty palms not included. I would be happy to continue this discussion with you. Feel free to contact me to engage me for a private coaching session. I wish you much success and shine in your next interview.
Thank you, Patty. And thanks for all those great interview tips that we could all use the next time we found ourselves in that interviewee chair. I'd like to ask you to please turn off your camera for now, and I'll introduce our next speaker. We are going to keep the chat window open as our next speaker has indicated he would like to use the chat window. I'd like to introduce Somesh Chablani, who is a certified speaker who believes the future of our nation rests in the hands of well-prepared youth. Somesh is extremely passionate about mentoring and teaching young children and students public speaking and leadership skills, both in his professional coaching career and as a Toastmasters International youth coach. As a certified youth development coach over the last 10 years, Somesh has taught more than 150 students across US, Europe, and Asia how to lead to win. Please help me welcome Somesh Chablani, Lead to Win. Take it away, Somesh.
Thank you, Michelle. Can you let me know, can you see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
All right. Again, thank you, Michelle, and good evening, everyone. We are so glad to have you in this showcase event, Reinvent Your Future. And welcome to the Lead to Win session. Lead to Win is not about winning a marathon or a contest. It's all about winning in life by preparing the youth and the young talent to be ready for the new future. You, me, and all of us collectively can help shape the future by encouraging students and teenagers to join a youth leadership program and enable them to learn public speaking as well as leadership skills. As Nelson Mandela said, the youth of today are the future of tomorrow. As per the United Nations, the kids born between 1997 to 2010 are termed as Gen Z, kids typically in the age group of 11 to 24. And also, interestingly enough, as per the latest statistics, every 9 seconds, a new child is born. Every week, approximately 1.2 million members are born worldwide. Hence, the children born from the year 2011 to present represent the age group of 0 to 10, which are termed as Generation Alpha. May I request you, if you can guess and type it in the chat or think in your mind, what will be the global population of Generation Alpha by 2025? Generation Alpha are those kids born from 2011 to present, which means they represent age groups 0 to the current ones, which are anywhere in the age group of 10. What will be the population of Generation Alpha by 2025? Can you take a guess? Thank you. I see the chats coming in. I'm sure you have guessed it right. By 2025, Generation Alpha will be approximately 2 billion plus strong across the globe, representing nearly 1/3 of the world population. And hence, the onus lies on us as a team, parent, community members to push, encourage, and motivate kids and students to participate in a youth leadership program. A little bit background about me. 7 years back, I got the opportunity to teach middle and high school students for the first time. And it's such a rewarding and fulfilling experience that since then, I have never looked back. I have been actively engaged in the community within Toastmasters as well as outside Toastmasters in different schools, colleges, and also in the community to teach young kids, and very privileged to teach more than 150 students across the globe, not just in the US, but outside the US in Europe as well as Asia. I'm sure you'll agree, in today's digital global economy, public speaking and leadership skills, they are essentially life skills which every student should learn. And as a parent of two teenagers, I was worried too on how my kids will be equipped and prepared in learning these skills, especially debates, actively participating and working as a team. And when the pandemic hit, my concern grew more in terms of how can I enroll them in a program which essentially is not in person, but virtual. And we got an opportunity because, as the former UK Prime Minister Winston Churchill has said, never let a crisis go to waste. And with that crisis, we got an opportunity to teach students through the virtual platform. As you see on the screen, this is a class in action of us teaching youth leadership to students. You can see how students are actively engaged and, more importantly, having fun. They are so happy. We adults learn so much from children. So it's not just giving to the community, it's also learning from kids on new techniques of using the virtual platforms such as Zoom, etc. So let me explain, how does a youth leadership program work and what is an outline or a curriculum of a youth leadership program? Needless to state, every student, whether elementary or in the middle school or sometimes even in high school, they always have the fear of public speaking, especially if they are more of an introvert. But teaching also through experience lets us build a lot of competency-based teaching in which we teach students not only to break the fear of public speaking, but to develop self-esteem. How can they develop confidence through active participation, through group learning, and more importantly, observing other kids. So the program outline is all developed on themes of learning outcomes. As an educator, I have developed this specifically to ensure that our youth leadership programs have a clear learning outcome which are measurable and tangible, such as developing self-esteem and confidence. How is the student progressing in terms of public speaking skills, pre-program as well as post-program? How can we encourage the students to participate in teamwork and team building activities, as well as listening skills? And of course, my favorite, impromptu speaking. How can we equip the students with the right techniques and the skills to do impromptu speaking, as well as in this process, gradually develop leadership skills? And then, as I mentioned earlier, it's all about smiling and having fun too. So we teach them a lot of fun debates. How do you participate in a debate? How you deliver, and how do you not only do impromptu speak, but how do you really actively engage in a very healthy debate to ensure that there is listening as well as respecting each other's opinion. And finally, it's all about practice, practice, and practice. I would like to now showcase one of our students. She's from New York, and I will play her video real quick.
Hi, everyone. My name is Younique Zhang, and I'm a high schooler based in Brooklyn, New York. Attending the Youth Leadership Program has truly benefited me in so many various ways. I've become a better speaker, not just by enhancing my virtual presence, but it helped me build my confidence. The comprehensive program also provided me an opportunity to take leadership roles and to participate in debates. I'm ecstatic to participate in the upcoming Youth Leadership Workshop and Conference, and I highly encourage other students to consider joining this program, as it's a fun way to step out of your comfort zone with the help of these amazing coaches. And when you do join, I hope you have as much fun as I did. Remember, today you take your first step. Thank you.
I am so proud of Younique. When she joined our program, she was not actively participating. And today she's actively participating in school activities, taking parts in debates, etc. So this was just a quick example of our students in action. Moving on. So how does the youth leadership program work? And what is the students' commitment in terms of time? A typical program runs through 6 weeks. It's 1.5 hours each week. And there is also active involvement from the parents, because we ensure that parents are in the loop in terms of either light home assignments and also what has been taught to the students. Many of the parents also reach out to volunteer and share a lot of ideas, such as recently, a parent shared with me a wonderful online tool on how students can also crack puzzles or look at different games to really use grammar as well as enrich their vocabulary. So it's been a very collaborative process. And we also provide a certification at the end of the program completion. What are the benefits of a youth leadership program? Though the benefits are many, the most common benefits which I would like to call out is overcome nervousness. How does the student organize ideas logically, similar to what we do in terms of organizing a speech? Listening skills in today's complex world where information and communication is flowing from different channels such as chat, emails, web. Listening and observation has become a very important skills. As my colleague and speaker Mario also said, it's attention as well as connection is the new currency. Participate in group discussions, which is also a very, very important skill which students have to learn. And more importantly, teamwork, because teamwork makes the dream work. So that's also something which we definitely have seen the students really derive benefits. I would also like to share a few testimonials. We have Kushi, one of our students from grade 7. She said, I have truly enjoyed the Lead to Win program. It has made me a confident speaker. And then we also have a parent, Miss Nora, who talks about her son, John, who has been participating now in various school activities as well as in debate competition. It makes her so happy. I'm so proud of these students. Why are students so much engaged in youth leadership programs? When they join, probably they don't know some of the facets, but once they have been learning all the different skills, they get so engaged that they want to continue just more than 6 weeks. It's because we also make sure there's full and active involvement from the students as well as the parents. I love quotes, and one of these quotes resonates very well with today's topic of Lead to Win by Benjamin Franklin, who says, tell me I'll forget, teach me and I'll remember, involve me and I'll learn. So the youth leadership program is all about not just teaching, but involving the students. I would end this by stating, you as a team, either as a parent, a community member, or as a teacher, please do encourage the youth and the students to enroll in the youth leadership program. I have put down my email address. I'll be very happy to chat with you or through email, through the chat, or on phone, and share more information about our youth leadership programs. Back to you, Michelle.
Okay, thank you so much. Great to hear the testimonials and experience of all the youth that have participated over the years. It is a program near and dear to my heart as well. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Please turn off your camera for now while I introduce our next speaker. We are going to keep the chat window enabled during Isaac's presentation as well. So for our Zoom master, we can keep that open. And I'd like to introduce our next presenter, Isaak Gelbinovich. Steve Jobs said, the most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation that is to come. The story of tonight's presenter is a powerful testament that there are no obstacles that you cannot overcome, no walls that you cannot break, and no circumstances that you cannot conquer. Isaak Gilbinovich, president of Speaking to Succeed, distinguished Toastmaster, and member of the Omni-Pro Speakers Bureau of Toastmasters District 83, came to the United States with his family in 1980. He did not speak a word of English. Isaak took English as a second language at Baruch College of the City University of New York, where he decided that his language barrier would not hold him back. Since then, Isaak has taught at the Chubb Institute of Technology, the Learning Annex, has presented his workshops in the United States and Europe, and has appeared in off-Broadway plays and on local TV stations. Isaak is a published author of the book Conversations Made Easy, How to Talk to Anyone for Pleasure or Profit, is a professional speaker, lecturer, workshop leader, and certified presentation coach. Audiences have repeatedly said that Isaak has a gift of presenting complicated material in a simple and actionable way so that you are able to immediately apply what you learned. So, are you ready to learn how you can deliver your story with confidence? Please help me welcome Isaak Gilbinovich. What's your story? Isaak, what's your story?
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Michelle, for such a wonderful introduction. And what is your story? I love this question. And every time I ask anybody, tell me a story, I hear the same answer in return. I have no story. What would you like to hear? And I would say, well, if I knew what your story is, I wouldn't ask for you to tell me the story, because everybody has a story. And only you can tell your story because it's your story. So what is your story? As my friend Mario Lewis showed you this Google search, how to connect with the audience. As you can see, number 8 on the list is tell a story. Well, for obvious reasons, I think that this should be moved to number 1. Tell a story. Everybody has a story. Personally, I grew up in an environment, in a family, which was very rich with stories. That's how I found out about my parents, my grandparents, where they came from, what struggles they had to go through. That's how I found out about their life, about how I came to life. Stories. Personal stories. You can entertain with a story. You can lead with a story. You can sell with a story. And if you don't believe me, I can demonstrate it easily. We heard this quote many times already during this day, during this evening. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda for an entire generation that is to come. And the most powerful story is the personal story. You may actually have a question. Isaak, what if I want to sell something? Am I going to tell a personal story to sell a gadget or a widget? Yes, you would. Let me ask you a quick question. How important your hair is to you, ladies and gentlemen? Well, excluding some of us, it's a very important part of our identity. I lost it many years ago, so I kind of think lightly about my hair. But my mom had a big issue. She started losing her hair. So much so that she couldn't leave the house. She was ashamed to leave her apartment without a wig. She would stop people on the street asking, oh, you have such a wonderful hair. What shampoo are you using? She had a whole army of shampoos on her windows and bathroom. It was mind-boggling how important all of a sudden it became for my mom. And I would say, Mom, I'm losing my hair since I'm 17. What's the problem? She said, shut up. You're a man. You don't understand. It's a tragedy for a woman. I finally understood. So I started researching it, and I heard the testimonial from one of my friends that also was losing her hair. And she started using a shampoo. I decided to buy the shampoo for my mom. My mom didn't want to use it. She said, no, I have my shampoos. I said, Mom, please, I'll buy it for you. If you don't like it, I'll take it back from you. Just try it. My mom gave in finally, and she tried the shampoo. In about 2 months, the hair loss diminished. In about 2 more months, the hair started growing back. It's actually growing back. It's just she was losing more than was growing back. And my mom still's using this shampoo, and she's happy about it. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a question for you. Would you buy this shampoo from me? Did I give you the company name, the shampoo name? Did I do any advertising? No, I just told you a personal story. And the wonderful thing about personal story is that it's all real. My mom is real, the hair loss is real, shampoo is real. And I didn't need to remember it much because I lived through this. I went through this experience myself with my mom. Personal story. I have a presentation workshop about interpersonal communication, conversation, and one of the phrases, very common phrase, is that people do business with people they know, like, and trust. Very common phrase, we all know it, or if you don't know it, now you heard it. And how do I make a point to anchor this idea, this thought? We had a number of accounts in major banks like Chase, Citi, Bank of America, whatever. And my wife and I decided to get a loan. We had perfect score, and we decided to get a loan. So I'm asking my wife, which bank do we go to? And she said, let's see Michelle. Michelle was an account manager in one of the banks. Every time we would come to that branch, we would chat with Michelle a little bit, here and there, small talk about children, about our jobs, about our families. We knew that she has 2 girls. She knew that we have a daughter. It didn't matter which bank we would go to. They're all pretty much similar, large banks, huge. But the person who we felt comfortable with, who we liked to talk to. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. And when you tell a story, it doesn't have to be a mind-boggling, life-changing story. Could be, but doesn't have to be. It can be just everyday story, like my loan story, like my mom hair story. And we begin to reflect. We begin to connect, as my friend and colleague Mario Lewis was describing, connection through stories, through personal stories. You may ask a valid question, where do I find the story? In our lives, personal stories in our lives. Well, I have to admit that the story I told you about my mom's hair was happening through about 4 or 5 months. I'm not going to tell you the story for 5 months. I kind of condensed it, cleaned it up a little bit, and presented it. There are certain elements in a good story that have to be there. There are certain techniques and ideas that you need to know, need to have to present a story, to find it, to refine it, and then present it. Like, for example, good story needs characters. And both my stories have characters. If you didn't notice, it was my mom, it was yours truly, it was my wife, Michelle, and Shampoo. So characters can be live and non-live. So characters, you have to play with them. You have to describe a character. And I gave description of each character a little bit or more, depending on the story, depending on importance of the character in the story. You may not need to know the weight, the height, the color of the eyes. That's not important. But you need to know that Michelle was a branch manager. That's why we went to her about a loan. It made sense. So how do you describe a character? It's all in my workshops. How do you find a story? Again, we have to meet offline, or now it's online, but not in this showcase, because we have only limited time to tell you, to encourage you, to describe to you what is possible. Possibilities are endless because everybody has a story, and only you can tell your story because it's your story. And when you tell a story, it has to have certain other elements. I just mentioned one of them, characters. Good. Characters are important. What else? Another thing is the message. If you tell a story that has no meaning, no message, no idea, it's kind of like, well, breathing the air, okay? It doesn't make any sense, especially in a presentation. But how do you know if story makes a point, if it has a meaning? Ask. Who can you ask? Well, my fellow Toastmasters, no. Members of your club. Present the story and ask, what did you learn? What did you get? What was your feeling? What did you feel when you heard my story? What were you thinking? And you will hear a wonderful, wonderful bouquet of responses. I can guarantee you that. If you're not a Toastmaster, no problem. You probably have friends or family members, just acquaintances. Tell them the story. Everybody likes a good story. So tell them a story. Ask them, what did you hear? What were your feelings? What did you learn? And you will see that each story may have multiple points, multiple messages. A good story needs a conflict. What's the conflict in my mom's hair story? She didn't want to try the shampoo. We were fighting back and forth. Finally, she did. A good outcome. A message and a good outcome. Resolution. So that's part of, these are the parts of a story. A good story. There are other parts. There are other parts which I just don't have time to describe all of them, because to be honest with you, I did a whole day workshop, actually 2 days workshops on storytelling, on presentation skills, how to weave a good story into your presentation, how to deliver it, how not to be too much, how to make the story not too much of a story. How to make it part of our presentation, part of our life, and how to reflect on a story. Because believe me, I heard a number of presentations when I came out said, well, good story, but why? Didn't make any sense to me, and I hope to others too. And then I heard stories that, wow, they just were woven into the presentation. They made perfect sense. And sometimes I heard the stories multiple times, and every time I enjoyed hearing the same story. So if you have your signature story or something, or some story that you absolutely love, you can make it into your signature story. You can deliver it every time for different presentations. You can modify it because, like I said, each story has multiple messages, multiple ideas, multiple outcomes. You can tweak it to make it pertinent to a certain presentation, to a certain meeting, to a certain crowd. And that's the wonder of a story. How do you remember all the stories? You don't. First of all, like I said, if you live through the story, you don't have to remember much. It's kind of like pops in your head. But there is a little secret. I personally have a story file. You say, what is story file? Well, in my case, it's very simple. I have a subdirectory in my computer on a disk, which says my stories. And in that subdirectory, I put in documents. Some of them just have one line. Some of them have a whole page. I just write down what I remember, what I met, who I met, what happened to me into that document. And sometimes just one line jogs my memory, and it's enough because I've been there. I know that. And as I said before, it doesn't have to be mind-boggling, life-changing stories. Just everyday stories about you, about your family, about your loved ones, about your issues, about your problems. We all have similar issues, similar problems. We want to hear how you deal with them, how you take care of the issues and problems of everyday simple problems or simple celebrations. Why not? Share your issues, share your celebrations. Be open to your audience, and they will reward you. They will reward you. So when you're here next time, tell me a story. Don't tell me I don't have a story, because everybody has a story, and only you can tell your story because it's your story. And thank you for your gift of time to us today, to me personally. If you want to contact me, it's right there, isaacprospeaker.com. You can contact me and we can continue our conversation and we can tell our stories. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Isaak, for sharing your story with us. And I've heard some of these stories before. It always sounds new and fresh to me every time I hear you deliver it. So thank you so much. I'd like to ask you to please turn off your camera, and we're going to move to our next speaker, who is Margarita Estrada. Margarita is a bilingual Spanish-English author and former panic attack sufferer turned award-winning goal-focused speaker, virtual skills presenter, and team building coach. She speaks on the power of team building in both the corporate and nonprofit environment and presenting with power and confidence on both in-person and virtual platforms. As an experienced speaker, she has conducted training and delivered talks at leadership conferences and corporate events at both virtual and in-person platforms, and is a sought-after MC for speakers. Known in literary circles as the well-connected writer, she has been called a skilled wordsmith and storyteller. In the year 2018, she was compelled to write Vignettes of a Family Journey, a bilingual memoir that brings awareness about Alzheimer's and dementia from the family's point of view. Her articles have been featured in newsletters for several organizations, and she is a regular contributor to LinkedIn. She has also been featured in local newspapers and magazines. Margarita is a graduate of Montclair State University, where she earned a BA in communication, graduated magna cum laude, and was co-founder of the Public Relations Student Society of America. Margarita has received the highest educational leadership award from Toastmasters International, Distinguished Toastmaster, and currently serves as the chair of the Omni-Pro Speakers Bureau, www.omniprosb.com, of Toastmasters District 83. Please join me with a warm welcome for Margarita Estrada, Team Building with BAM, B-A-M. Margarita Estrada.
Good evening to you, future team builders. Isn't it great when you complete a project? You stand back, you look at it in admiration, and you say, damn, I did a good job. However, it is also exciting to work as a team because each person brings their unique experiences to the table. In other words, one adds the salt, if the other one adds the pepper. Everybody brings the spices to complete the project. I am thrilled to bring you Team Building with BAM. Today we will cover what is a BAM team builder, unhealthy versus healthy teams, and steps for preservation. Albert Einstein said, everything is energy and that's all there's to it. In other words, you get exactly what you put in. And that happens in your professional life, in your personal life, and in team building. A BAM team builder is bold, steps outside the box, willing to take chances, and understands that they must use their creativity. A BAM team builder is ambitious, lays out a plan, and follows it until the end. A BAM team builder is motivated to succeed because they know that every obstacle they encounter, every difficult person that they have to deal with is a lesson to the blessing. Write that down. Every difficult person you encounter, every obstacle that you have to go through is a lesson to the blessing. Most importantly, a BAM team leader is trustworthy. They stand on their own integrity. There is a big difference between being liked and being respected. A person that is liked, for the most part, is because of their looks, personality, maybe they have a lot of money, status. There could be many reasons, but remember, sometimes being liked, those pedestals break down quickly. However, if you're a trustworthy person, you're standing on integrity, and those roots are deeply entrenched. And in my opinion, I would rather be respected than liked. The benefits of successful team building are lower absenteeism, less turnover, more productivity, and higher profitability. And isn't that what it's all about? The bottom line? Of course. So let's look at an unhealthy team. This team is zoomed out. They really don't want to be there, and they're just plain tired. There could be many reasons why this team is lacking health, both personal and professional. But today we will focus strictly on those professional reasons. It could be that they have lost respect for the team leader. It could be that there are many factions that are being formed within the team. It could be that there is a power struggle. There are many more reasons to that. But the whole point is that in order for this team to get out of trouble, those issues have to be addressed so that they could become happy, engaged teams, encouraged, wanting to be there every single time. Years ago, I worked for a company in New York City, right across from South Ferry in downtown New York, whose name was International Nickel Inc. Then it became Inco Limited. Then it became Inco United States Inc. Then it became Valle Inco. And finally, Valle, when the Brazilian company brought them over cash. Bad takeover. This means that I was able to observe many team leaders. But the one team leader that stood out was Elliot Rome. And these are the reasons why. First, by the time he welcomed you into his team, he knew everything about you. He had asked for references. He would ask questions whether you were a team player, whether you put in your work on time, whether you really cared about the work that you do, because this was very important to him as a team builder. Secondly, he laid out a clear plan for all of us. He was so meticulous, and I kid you not, that he would have a SWOT analysis on each one of us, so that this way he could help us. Last but not least, he had our back. He knew that we put 100% effort in our work, and that is why he always put 100% of himself. The experiences that I learned from Elliot Rome, I applied it in the nonprofit environment. And I can tell you by experience that if you can put together a team in a nonprofit environment, you can do it anywhere. This cumulative experience allowed me to create the G.A.N.A.S team building system for team builders, which is you. Today, we will focus on step 3 of the 5-step system, nurture. To nurture someone means to care for and encourage for the growth and development of someone or something. And the reason why I decided to focus on the heart is because in our communities, in our country, and in our world, it is evident that all of this chaos is due to the lack of nurture. Within nurture are 3 points of encouragement, or support, I should say. Encouragement, guidance, and the tools needed to succeed. Let's look at the first point of support for nurture, which is encouragement. To encourage someone means to applaud their efforts, their contributions, to respect who they are. And how can we do this in an effective way? I'll offer you 4 suggestions. First, ask each member of your team, how are you? This simple question alone can raise the energy, right? Vitality, motivation for your team. Ask each person, how are you doing? Whether you're working virtually or in person. This question is powerful. And most importantly, it helps you connect with your team. Next, have a motivational quote moment. Ask each member of your team, what is your favorite motivation? Why is it your favorite motivational quote? And how do you use it throughout your day? And as each person shares, again, they're building vitality, momentum, energy. And in order to keep your team together, you need that energy up high. Next, have your team show appreciation for one another. Now, there's a big difference between a compliment and appreciation. For example, if I say, wow, you look so handsome today, do you see that problem when I add the word today? Does that mean that that person didn't look handsome yesterday? Whereas appreciation is totally different. I appreciate you because you always show up on time. I appreciate you because you bring 100% of yourself. I appreciate you because of your creativity. Do you see how that builds vitality, momentum, and energy? Last but not least, add some fun in your team building. I'm all about fun. One of the ways you can do it is Pictionary online. That's right. I love this game in person, and online it's great. You use the Zoom whiteboard, use those annotation tools, and your teams can go to town having a great time. But the whole point is that you're building cohesion with your team. You want your team to build cohesion. Next point of support for nurture is guidance. A person can be misguided for many reasons. It could be professional, it could be personal. These are ways that you can address this area. First, make sure that you have an open environment where your team members can clearly express that they are confused and that they need help. I can't tell you how many teams I've been a part of that members just leave because they are treated with disrespect simply because they are confused. And you as a team leader have to address that. So make sure that you have an open, friendly environment. Second, make sure you listen to understand, not listen to squash or to respond. This is extremely important. Always respectful. Respect is very important to me. For example, if a person tells you, I am confused because, then you respond, what I heard you say was, you are confused because, they nod, and then you respond. So this way, the person feels that they're being listened to, and most importantly, it creates cohesion and understanding. Change it up a bit. Sometimes as team builders, we could get stuck in a routine, and it's good to change it up, to change the energy. My mom, Juanita, used to change the furniture every season. It used to drive us crazy because that means that us kids had to help her change the furniture, right? So one day, I'll never forget, I was 8 years old, and I asked her, Mom, why do you ask us to do that? She said, you don't understand. Every season brings with it a gift. And when you shift the furniture and you shift the energy, for example, she tells me, in the wintertime, I have more blankets and pillows, right? You want to get cozy. In the spring, you lighten up. It changes the energy. So as a team builder, you got to change it up. Finally, provide your teams with the tools to succeed, that monkey wrench, that hammer, that screwdriver. Provide the proper training for your team. This is extremely important. Elliot Rome, the gentleman I mentioned to you before, was genius in this. He would have us all cross-trained. There was a real reason why he did this, which is really funny. There were 6 women in the department and 2 men. And what happens when you have 6 women in a department? Maternity leave. That's right, maternity leave. He had previous experiences where jobs were not covered. So he said, oh no, not this time. So he had us all cross-trained. But what that did was it gave us a vision of where we could go next, right? So if you train for a higher job, when that person gets promoted, then you could step right in. Next, there are many free virtual courses that are being offered now through LinkedIn, through Entrepreneur Magazine, through US Chamber of Commerce, many courses. Make sure that your teams take advantage of this, because I predict that by the fall, it's gonna be gone. Last but not least, provide your teams with really good collaboration tools, such as Asana, Monday.com, and Slack. The most popular ones are Slack and Asana. First, because they are, the basic ones are free, right? Monday.com is $6 to $8 a month, but Asana and Slack has a free version for small businesses, which are really good. But the whole point is that you have to provide a place for teams to talk to one another in real time. Remember, to be a BAM team builder, you need to be bold, ambitious, and motivated to succeed with that core value of trustworthiness. Nurture your teams by providing encouragement, guidance, and the tools to succeed. Einstein said, everything is energy, and that's all there's to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get what you want. And that happens in your professional life, in your personal life, in every facet, including team building. I am Margarita Estrada, creator of the G.A.N.A.S team building system. If you would like me to go to your organization and teach you the 5 steps and turn your team members into BAM team leaders, contact me at estradaprospeaker.com. And remember, build your arsenal, break the barriers, dare to be the challenger, the initiator, and the change agent that you were meant to be. Thank you, and see you at the Q&A.
Thank you, Margarita. Bold, ambitious, motivated, bam. Thanks for that great presentation. I'd like to now invite all of our panelists to turn their cameras on. We're going to engage with our audience for some Q&A. I would like to invite the audience members to share your questions in the Q&A window. That's different than the chat window. So you have the ability to type questions in Q&A. Some of you were using that before when we had the chat disabled. So please, questions for our panelists, you can put into our Q&A section, and we can happy to entertain those questions. Also, for those of you who were looking for handouts, Peggy recently, just a moment ago, posted Margarita's handout in the chat window. So you can download that from there. And I believe she's going, and she just reposted Mario's handout in the chat window. So they're both in there. And I also have a chat that I'm ready to share. And I just shared the website for Omni-Pro Speakers Bureau, www.omniprosb.com. You can get links and information for all of our featured speakers tonight from the Omni-Pro Speakers Bureau website. Our speakers are welcome to also share their own personal websites in the chat window with the audience if you would like. And I'd like to throw out a question to our panelists while we are awaiting some audience member questions. And my question is for each of you. You're all members of Omni-Pro Speakers Bureau, and I'm interested to hear about what for you, what the Omni-Pro Speakers Bureau is for you, and what you are looking to accomplish through your participation in the Speakers Bureau. And why don't we start with Mario, who was our first speaker tonight?
Absolutely, and I consider myself one of the newer members of Omni-Pro Speakers Bureau, being that I was in the last class. And this opportunity has actually been a very huge blessing for me, that being able to collaborate with my Speakers Bureau colleagues, because often when you're in the craft of public speaking, it's just so important to have people around you, peers and people you can consider mentors within this group, in order so you can move your craft forward, so you can strengthen your material. And so that's what the Speakers Bureau provides. And with the support of District 83 behind it, you have a complete powerhouse, a power punch that really helps us to move something that I'm passionate about, and something that I realize all my colleagues are passionate about. So and using that forum to just move our capabilities forward. So it's been a blessing for me.
Thank you, Mario. How about Dave Chapman? Would you like to answer the same question about the Speakers Bureau and what your hopes and aspirations are with the Speakers Bureau?
It's been an opportunity to see some really talented people work together. It's been an opportunity to see exemplary leadership from Margarita. It taught me a lot about collaborative effort and how to be part of a team. And hopefully, if things work out well, it will lead to exposure and improved revenue, because I will be working as part of a Speakers Bureau, and hopefully it'll develop a reputation that'll bring in business.
Okay, thank you, Dave. I'll move to Patty Loud, who was our third speaker this evening. Patty, would you like to share with the audience how you got involved with the Speakers Bureau?
I'm one of the first part of, I guess, what you'd call the first class of the Speakers Bureau, and I learned about it by attending a District 83 conference many years ago, when the dream was just a thought. It was just a dream in somebody's head. We talked about it. I attended a learning session on it at the conference, and I raised my hand and said, wow, that sounds like fun. And over this past year, it has truly been a wonderful experience to work together with everyone here on the Bureau. We meet on a regular basis, we encourage each other, we feed off each other, we share great ideas with each other, and it's been a wonderful experience.
Thanks, Patty. All right, let's move on to Somesh. And can you share with us some of your experiences within the Speakers Bureau and what you look to accomplish in the future?
Sure. No, thanks, Michelle. And similar to Mario, I've been the latest comer in the batch, but it's been really a privilege. I actually feel that the Speakers Bureau is more like an advanced speech and leadership lab. There's so much to learn from all the senior speakers and draw upon their experiences, and also take their feedback, especially since last year when the world moved from physical to digital. There was so many best practices and sharing as we speak to a very large audience on the virtual platform, and everyone brings in diverse experience, different best practices. That has been a blessing. And then again, thanks to District 83 to support the Speakers Bureau, and Margarita has been an excellent Speaker Bureau chair who's always leading and motivating us, as she says, bam. So it's been truly a great privilege as well as a excellent experience.
Thank you, Somesh. So we'll move to Isaak Gelbinovich, and we know you have a story to share. What's your story with Omni-Pro Speakers Bureau, Isaak?
It's interesting how different things were mentioned here, and I'm standing here smiling because I remember how this dream actually came to life. And I was actually presenting a workshop at this workshop about the Bureau. I was the first presenter from Omni-Pro Bureau. It wasn't Omni-Pro at the time. It was just a dream, like everybody said. And another interesting thing is that I agree with everybody in this panel that it is a phenomenal experience. And we do actually bounce off of each other. We do share interesting ideas and experiences and opportunities, not so much opportunity to business, but speaking to each other, that helps. And to Margarita, I can say, my mother was always, the best leading is leading by example. So she does walk the talk. That's what I can say. You're muted, Michelle.
Sorry, didn't realize.
Okay, now we can hear.
Okay, well, Margarita Estrada is our chairperson for the Omni-Pro Speakers Bureau. So I'm thinking you might have a slightly different take. I'll ask you a little different question than I asked the other participants. So if someone wants to become a member of the Speakers Bureau, how can they do that? Is this an exclusive group only to the 6 of you that are here tonight, or will there be opportunities in the future for more speakers?
There will be. For now, it is. I think that we're in the middle development phase, I should say, because in the beginning phase was just the formation, right? Forming the website, doing the social media. Because don't forget, this is like starting a business. You're going from scratch, right? Trying to find everybody's strengths and weaknesses, opportunity threats, right? The SWAT. So I'm doing like earlier on doing the SWAT team, right? Trying to figure out what's going on. So now we're in the mid-range, and so what we're trying to do now is really to gain clientele, right? And clientele so that we could go out there and speak and so on. But going forward, so I would predict that maybe by the fall of this year, we'll have another tryout. But I would recommend that everybody practice like crazy. Practice a 15-minute presentation. Make sure that your slides are clear. Make sure that there's hardly any text on your slides, right? You talk to the image. We don't want to see somebody reading off the slides. You want to be able to be confident and understand that you represent yourself as well as the organization, right? Third but not least, make sure that you're able to connect with the audience, right? Even if you're in this platform, you have to be able to connect, look dead on the camera. And when we go to in person, hopefully sometime soon, you have to be able to connect with that audience and bring some value, right? That's the whole key. We want to see you deliver a message that adds value to the audience. So I would say that would be my advice to you.
Thank you, Peggy.
Yes. Isaac.
May I?
Yes, you may.
About connection, about connecting to the audience. Mario was talking about it. We actually all were talking about it in different ways. And please think about it. For me personally, I never presented on Zoom before I joined the Omni-Pro. Okay, there was no opportunity. The only time I presented online was through Skype. Obviously, nobody can see you. You're just talking. It's only voice. It was about 10 years ago, my first and only time. And now I already presented a number of times. It's a very different experience and a very unique experience. So if you have, and I know a lot of clubs have virtual meetings, do participate. Do participate. Present whatever, doesn't matter what you're presenting, a speech, a table topic, just a timer's report. Start doing it. It's very different. It's very interesting, but it's very useful. And it's not going to go away. It's not. It may be less, but it's not going to go completely away. So it's a very, very valuable and powerful experience when you get it.
I think that the most important message that I have for you is that if you have a message that you've had inside for a long time, that you want to share, that you feel would be useful to your audience, don't be afraid to share it. Don't be afraid to share it. There's people out there that need what you have to say. And you really have to get over the fear, step forward and say, you know, I got this. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to change the world. Right?
All right. Thank you. Well, I did type in the chat for our attendees that we have opened up the chat window. Maybe the Q&A is not something folks are used to. So we will take any questions or comments in the chat window. It's also possible, panelists, that you may have received some personal questions. So maybe check your own chat window and Q&A window to see if you've got any direct messages or questions from the audience member. So we do have time allocated here to respond to any questions from the audience. And it is also a small group, so if typing isn't your thing, you can raise your hand. There is a raise hand function that we have. We could test that out, see how that works. If you want to raise your hand, we could give you permission to talk and ask a question.
But I do want to comment on Margarita's point about sharing messages. And I think I did touch about it. It's hard to be vulnerable in front of audiences at times when you first start. But when you start doing it and you notice the audience's response and their interaction and their connection to your messages, it does become a lot easier. And you then want to get that feeling where you feel like you're impacting people going forward. So I think it's worth that chance that you take in order to be vulnerable about who you are and what you hope to achieve and what your goals are. And like I said, you're often sharing that part of your life that's not pretty, perfect, or polished, but it is the part that people will connect with and will resonate with, because often they are going through the same challenges and struggles that you've gone through, and they want to know how you've made it through on the other side of those failures, frustrations, and fears. So I think that's what opens up an audience to a message that will have a lasting impact. So I highly recommend people to take Margarita's advice and not be afraid to, like Isaac said, tell stories and be vulnerable.
Okay. Well, thank you to all of our panelists this evening, and thank you to our audience who has participated. Let's see. It's one of our audience members is thanking us for our presenters, and that it's been very interesting and helpful to see different styles of speakers. So thank you for your comment. I'll offer each of our presenters an opportunity to close with a lightning round here. Something you each want to leave with our audience members as a closing remark, and then we'll close out tonight's session since we really haven't had too many questions for you tonight. So why don't we start with, we'll go in reverse order now. We'll start with Margarita. One sentence, couple of words you want to leave with our audience members about your message for team building and what's next.
Okay. I'd like to say that when you're building your teams, make sure that you really care for your teams, that you add value to them, because that value that you add to your team comes to you in return. You will have many difficulties, many challenges along the way, but I can honestly say that it will be an extremely rewarding experience. I have grown from building Omni-Pro. I have grown tremendously and continue to grow, and you will too.
Thank you, Margarita. Isaac, storytelling. Any final words of wisdom you'd like to share with our audience members tonight?
Definitely, definitely. What you heard now today was just a little snippet of each of our expertise, each of our presentations. Time limits, and it's the showcase. So if you want in-depth knowledge, in-depth experience, in-depth workshops, you have to contact each of us separately, or contact Omni-Pro Speakers Bureau, and we will be notified. Invite us to your club, invite us to your organization, invite us to talk. We have a lot to say, believe me. Believe me, each of us has a lot more to say.
Thank you, Isaac. Somesh, Lead to Win and Youth Leadership. What would you like to leave the audience with tonight?
Sure, very simple message. Keep smiling, and every moment is a learning moment. Keep learning.
Thank you, Somesh. Patty Loud, interview to shine. You gave us some great tips and pointers tonight. Any final words for the audience members before we close out?
The world has changed, as if interviews weren't scary enough, but they don't have to be. The key is to be prepared. Be prepared when those questions start firing, and be ready with your online presence. I'm free to help anyone who would like some assistance. Go to loudspeaks.com.
Thank you, Patty. And Dave, as much as I know you'd like to put this off, but would you please leave us some closing words of wisdom on eliminating procrastination?
I'll do it when I get around to it. Procrastination stinks. It's no fun. The good news is we know more about how our brains work than we've ever known in the history of the human race. And that knowledge can be used to help you overcome a problem like procrastination. If you face up to it and are willing to do some hard work, you can change your life. I know from my experience that that's possible. And whatever your level of procrastination, if it's disturbing you, if it's interrupting the quality of your life, have faith, work hard, you can get there. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. And will our first speaker, now the one that gets the final word tonight, Mario Lewis, speak to Connect, C-O-N-N-E-C-T. Your thoughts for the audience tonight.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for being our gracious host tonight. Thank you, Peggy, for being helping us put on this program. I want to thank my fellow Omni-Pro Speakers Bureau for their partnership. I want to thank Margarita for her leadership. I want to thank the collective group for bringing all your talents together for the benefit of our viewers tonight. And I thank our viewers for watching. The only simple thing I want to say is every time you get in front of an audience, every time you get in front of people that matter to you, people that you love, focus on speaking to connect, because that's the way we change lives and we make this world a better place. I hand it back to you.
Okay, well, big round of applause, jazz hands for all of our presenters tonight from the Omni-Pro Speakers Bureau. And although you have not seen her on camera tonight, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to our Zoom master, Peggy Seymour.
Peggy Seymour, yes.
Thank you, Peggy.
All on time and in line tonight.
Yeah,
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Peggy. Thank you, Peggy. You made us look good.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Peggy.
You're all very welcome.
And thanks to our audience.
Thank you.
They endured us. They're still enduring us. Look at this.
Thank you.
Thank you to all who helped to make tonight possible. And thank you to the speakers tonight for your wonderful insights and inspiration. I learned a lot from each of you. I will be visiting each of your individual websites. I know that I can access them through www.omniprosb.com. And if you want to contact Margarita Estrada, the chairperson, for any bookings of any of our speakers, you can email her at omniprosb@gmail.com. And for anybody that had any difficulty downloading the handouts, we do have the email addresses of everyone who participated. We will make sure that our audience members get copies of the handouts if you were unable for some reason to access them via the chat window. Thank you all for joining us tonight and have a great night. Bye, everyone.
Take care now.